So we had done the first year of the compensation mechanism, that is the Civil Liability Convention, CLC 1992. Now, when the CLC was first developed in 1969, 2 years later in 1971, the Fund Convention was developed. What was the objective of the Fund Convention? It was discussed at IMO that what if it is a large oil pollution incident where the number of claims can be more, people suffering damages can be more, so therefore the total amount of claim can be large, which can be more than what the oil tanker owner is supposed to pay under the CLC. We have set the maximum limit. Now we need to have some other source of money so that if the amount required to pay the people who have suffered damages and made a claim is more than what the oil tanker owner pays under CLC, there should be additional money. With that objective, the Fund Convention was developed in 1971, and just like the CLC, the Fund Convention was also revised in 1992. So what we are discussing is Fund 1992. So India has done away with CLC 69 and Fund 71 as part of MSA. They are following CLC 1992 and Fund Convention 1992. Now, how to create the money? They got down to the basics of maritime transportation. What is the basic? It involves two elements: the ship and the cargo. The ship element they took care of it by asking the oil tanker owner to pay. So they said we need to create a fund convention. We need to create the fund having additional money by asking the cargo owners to make a contribution annually in a fund. We will have the additional money. So by the law, just like CLC, fund is also a convention of IMO like SOLAS, MARPOL, etc. In this case, cargo involved is persistent oil, which is only grades of crude oil. So by the law of fund convention, first of all, a body was created called the IOPC Fund, International Oil Pollution Compensation Fund, headquarters London. So the question came, shall we ask the importers of crude oil to make an annual contribution to the IOPC fund? Shall we ask the exporters of crude oil to make the annual contribution, or shall we ask both? It is immaterial whether you are importing or exporting. So at the beginning itself, they said it will create a lot of confusion if we try to ask for contribution for oil exporters and oil importers. Now the question came, we have to choose between one of them for making the annual contribution, the importers of crude oil or the exporter. For two reasons, the exporters of crude oil were kept aside, that we will only ask the importer. What were the two reasons? Almost 99% of the world is an importer of crude oil. They said there's so many importers in the world, by asking them to make a small contribution, we'll be able to create billions of dollars of fund. After all, the oil exporters are existing in the 9-10 oil exporting countries, the 8 countries of the Gulf, Venezuela, Nigeria, and Brunei. Rest of the countries are oil importers. So the law of fund convention says that any entity, now entity can be a person like you and me, a company, a corporation in any country who is or who has imported 1,50,000 metric tons of crude oil per annum will have to make an annual contribution. So therefore, such an entity came to be known as a contributor. A very common question in your oral: who is a contributor and what is contributing oil? A contributor, as per fund convention, is any person or any entity who has imported 1,50,000 metric tons of crude oil per annum has to make an annual contribution to the IOPC fund secretariat at London. So therefore, such an entity is called a contributor. What is 1,50,000 is a very small amount. Probably one tanker load. That's about it. Now, another important definition is contributing oil. What is contributing oil? Listen, please, carefully. Once an entity qualifies as a contributor, then the number, the figure of the entire oil imported by that entity in the previous year, for the entire year, that figure will be used to calculate that entity's annual contribution. That figure multiplied by X dollars will be the annual contribution. So therefore, the total amount of oil imported becomes the contributing oil for calculating the entity's annual contribution. Are you with me? Gentlemen, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay, so now I have a question. Suppose one of you in previous year, no, year is always 1st April to 31st March. So let's say one of you from 1st April 2021 till the coming 31st March 2022 has imported 5 lakh metric tons of crude oil. So what will be the contributing oil figure on which your proportional contribution to IOPC fund will be calculated? Feel free. What comes to your mind? Gentlemen?
5 lakh.
Absolutely correct. 10 on 10. Don't make the mistake 5 lakh minus 1,50,000. So the contributing oil figure will be 3,50,000. No, you are 100% correct. This figure is only used to decide whether you are on this side of the fence or this side, whether you have to contribute or not contribute, whether you are a contributor or not. That figure is only for that. Once you qualify as a contributor, that entire 5 lakh multiplied by X dollars. I'll come to that how that is done. Common question. My next question is, suppose if I in the previous year had imported 1,49,999 metric tons of crude oil, what will be my contributing oil figure?
0 tons.
Zero.
Absolutely. I love you guys. Because I don't qualify as a contributor, so the contributing oil figure does not arise. It is 0. Wonderful. And the latest limit set is, and by the way, I forgot, the fund convention out of the 3 tiers forms the 2nd tier. Let me show you this figure. This was the first tier, CLC. Now this is the second tier. So the fund convention also said the total amount, but fund create हो गया है कि वो ऐश करने के लिए थोड़ा ना, we must have the money. So the maximum amount available by including the fund convention money, the latest figure is 203 million SDR. And this amount, that is, this amount of 203 million SDR includes the amount paid by the oil tanker owner. It is not that what he pays plus 203, no. So first year plus second year is equal to 203 million SDR. That is this plus this. This line is what is 203 million SDR per incident per annum. That's a huge amount. Get an idea. If we multiply this by 1.5, approximately, we are talking about $350 million available to settle all the damage claims for an oil pollution incident. That's a huge amount. So that is there. Now, in 2000, let me put it at this. So this came in force in 2003. So in 2000, they amended the fund convention because Exxon Valdez had happened, and amount of oil spilled in the Exxon Valdez incident was 20,000 metric tons of oil. There have been bigger oil pollution incidents, but Exxon Valdez only made changes in the local law of America, that is, they created OPA 90. And by the way, America is not party to CLC and fund. We have OPA 90. Okay, ठीक है, जो करना है करो. But matters, and Exxon Valdez has, however, been the incident which has resulted in the maximum amount of claims. The total amount of claims reached almost $5 billion. It was a matter of concern. It was in America. They developed their own law. But we at IMO have to deal with the world. What if a similar incident happens in anywhere else in the world, and if we require more money? So they said we need to amend the fund convention. This issue started in the 90s, culminated in 2000 by this amendment. We will create more money. And they called it as the supplementary fund. Again, to be managed by the IOPC headquarters at London. The supplementary fund that was created, it was part of the same fund convention. So there are only two conventions which form the tiers of compensation mechanism. First tier is CLC. The second and third tier is the fund convention. लेकिन पैसा तो फंड कन्वेंशन में से कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटर्स में से आ रहा है, यूएनवी और some other private contributors. तो पैसा क्रिएट करने के लिए it would have meant that the contributors in different countries around the world, they would have had to make more contributions. तो कई कंट्रीज ने कहा आईएमओ में, अरे हम लोगों की तो सरकार गिर जाएगी, इलेक्शन का पैसा तो ऐसे ही लोगों से आता है, so we cannot make it mandatory. But it was also required that we need to have more amount of money, so they took a middle path. Okay, we will do one thing. we will make this amendment by creating a supplementary fund, but we will keep it optional. I repeat, we will keep it optional for the countries who are party to the fund convention, whether you want to follow the requirements of the supplementary fund and ask your contributors to pay more, or you don't want to do it, we keep it to you. The country said that is fine. So for your information, there are only 22 countries who have gone ahead and decided to follow the supplementary fund requirement. 20 countries of European Union, Australia, and Japan, for example, and the government of that country tells their contributors to make additional contributions. They are rich people. For example, India is not party to the amendment of the supplementary fund. India is party to CLC and the fund convention. For India, where you see the green line, everything ends here. For those 22 countries, things go up till here. And therefore, countries who have decided to be party to the amendment of the supplementary fund, well, their contributors pay more. So if a pollution happens in the country of, in the territory of these 22 countries, the amount of money available for every incident to pay compensation is 750 million SDR, and you multiply it by 1.5, it is more than $1.1 billion. अगर आप ज्यादा पैसा दोगे तो आपको उतना बेनिफिट भी मिलेगा, सीधी सी बात. And this figure of 750 is the total figure, total amount available per annum per incident, and it is a total of the first year plus second year plus the supplementary fund where applicable amounts to 750. That is first year plus second year plus third year. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is a figure which I've drawn, and it is part of your reading material. As I said, you will 100% get a question in your written on the oil pollution compensation mechanism. Obviously, you will never be asked the whole thing because it's a very, very long question. But the point is, any question on this topic, you are going to draw the diagram and you will get 4 to 5 extra marks. That is 100% sure. And the other advantage of drawing this figure is whatever question is asked, most of the information is there in this figure. So you just practice 2-3 times, you are on top of it. Now, before we discuss this figure, let's understand this figure. Let's understand this figure.
सर ये कौन डिसाइड करता है 203 मिलियन SDR और 750 मिलियन SDR?
Beta, it is written down in the fund convention of, it's a law. तो ये तो IMO ने जब convention बनाया था तो it is part of that. भाई जैसे जैसे 16 में लिखा हुआ है कि भाई सेफ्टी इक्विपमेंट सर्टिफिकेट की वैलिडिटी 2 years है, तो इट इज एप्लीकेबल ऑल अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. तो उसी तरह से फंड कन्वेंशन में ये लिखा हुआ है.
ओके सर, नोटेड. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू. नाउ First, let's understand the thing. The bottom line, you can call it a zero line or baseline, because all SDR measurement, we will do it vertically from 0 here till 750. That is number one. First year is CLC. 2000 to 5000, I've just drawn it a straight line. That is 5000 gross ton. Maximum that the oil tanker owner is paying is 4.51. From 5,001 to 1,40,000, why this line is slanting? Because like we had done it, that if the oil tanker owner is 130 gross ton, the oil tanker owner's maximum liability may be here, like here. If it is 95,000, it will be here. So that's why this line is slanted. And again, greater than 1,40,000 gross ton, maximum of 89.77 million SDR. You ignore this, this will come when I'm just discussing it. That is the first tier CLC. Second tier is a straight line. So first tier plus second tier, 203 million SDR. Make sure you are drawing the top line as dotted to indicate, and you'll be writing also, supplementary fund. Because it is optional, that's why we show a dotted line. So first tier plus second tier plus third tier, total 750 million SDR. The first tier is made up by CLC, second, third tier is made up by the fund convention. Both are conventions of IMO, like Solar, Colrec, everything. Now, let's take, now this is becoming interesting. Now let's take a tanker. One, and the gross tonnage is more than 1,40,000. So out of the three segments of the first tier, 1, 2, 3, which segment will our tanker be shown as if it is more than 1,40,000? Port, midship, or starboard?
Starboard, sir.
Absolutely. We are dealing with this because it is more than 1,40,000. Let's say that tanker is involved in an oil pollution incident. So the total of that claim comes to 50 million SDR. If this line is 0, if this line is 89.77, we can show 50 million SDR like this. Who pays for it?
Tanker company owner.
Absolutely correct. If it is asked in your oral, who pays for it? Tanker company owner, your oil tanker owner. Never say P&I club. Technically, you are right, but that is not a smart way to answer, because P&I club always pays on behalf of the oil tanker owner, but the responsibility remains with the oil tanker owner. So when you answer the question, sir, the oil tanker owner will pay for it. But what about the P&I club? Your answer will be, sir, P&I club pays on behalf of oil tanker owner, but the responsibility to ensure payment remains with the oil tanker owner. Everybody gets what they have claimed for, case closed. Guys, are you with me or not? Gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's take a second case. The same oil tanker is involved in an oil pollution incident, which is a little bigger, where more number of people suffer damages, they make a claim, and this time the total claim comes to 100 million SDR. Now, if this line is 0, this line is 89.77 million SDR, we can safely show 100 million SDR here. How much will the crude oil tanker owner pay?
Sir,
89.77.
89.77.
Absolutely correct. Maximum. That is the meaning of maximum liability. We have told you you have to pay, but this is the max. So he pays maximum 89.77. The remainder, that is 100 minus 89.77, that is 10.23 million STR, is paid by the IOPC fund headquarters at London. That is the meaning of having more money. Just to let you know that Erica incident, which happened about 20 years ago off the coast of Spain, the fund, IOPC fund, ended up paying, I think, about $154.5 million. I mean, SDR into dollar. That is the meaning of creating, that is the purpose of creating this IOPC fund. So 100 million SDR was the total claim. Everybody got what they had claimed for. Case closed. And let's take a third, the same oil tanker involved in a bigger incident where the total amount of claims they come to 210 million SDR. If this is 0, this is 203, we can very safely say show 210 million SDR here. So how much will the crude oil tanker owner pay?
Same answer. 89.77.
Very good. That is the max. How much? By the way, I forgot to mention, the supplementary fund is also handled and managed by the IOPC headquarters at London, but they maintain a separate account called the IOPC supplementary fund account for those countries' benefit who are party to it and are therefore contributing. Now, so from the first IOPC fund account, how much will they pay? 203 minus 89.77, because first year plus second year is this. So they pay 113.23 million SDR. What about the 7 million SDR? 210 minus 203. Well, if the oil pollution incident has happened in the territory of any of those 22 countries, 20 countries of EU and Australia and Japan, well, their contributors have contributed more. So it will come from the supplementary fund account. But what about the rest of the world? What about countries like India, where everything finishes at 203 million SDR? Well, like Solas, etc., fund convention is also a law. The law created that body called IOPC fund. So the same law gave the powers to the board of directors and the executive directors of the IOPC fund that if such a scenario arises, you have the powers to reduce everybody's claim by a small percentage to bring this 210 figure down to 203, because this is the maximum that is available for every incident. It cannot be exceeded. Although for more than 50 years, from 71 till 2022, such a scenario that has not existed, has not come across, but that power is there. And IOPC fund, although they call the board of directors and executive director, you may think that it's a private corporate company. No. It's an intergovernmental body. The board of directors on a I don't know how many years term, they appointed from around the world who are party to the fund convention. Then on a 2-year rotational term, one person is selected to become the executive director. For a very long time, there was a Swedish guy, Mark Jakobson, who was the executive director. Then he finished his term. Somebody else has been there from some country. So it's also an intergovernmental body. So bringing this additional 210 to 203, this is called as loss sharing. That you distribute this additional amount among all the people making a claim by a small percentage so that everybody gets something. Ye na ho, if there are 10 people who have made a claim totaling 210, first 9 people, they get everything. The 10th one does not get anything. No, that's a very sad scenario. It has been incorporated into the law of fund conversion. If not 100%, if all the 10 people get 95, 96% of what they have claimed, at least they will get something to come back on their feet. Instead of 9 people getting 100%, 10th person getting 0. It has not happened, but this is how the whole thing functions. Are you with me? Guys?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Understood.
Now, we understand some very important aspects. Whatever the size of the pollution, size meaning the total number of claims, what is the total amount in SDR, whether it is the red fellow, the yellow fellow, or the blue fellow. Who is paying the first amount? Absolutely correct. And on behalf of the oil tanker owner, who is settling the claims? Right? Who is settling the claims? On behalf of, it is there on the screen. Who's settling the claim? Absolutely correct. So, beta, God forbid, you are in an oil tanker, and if an oil pollution happens, whatever time of day or night, first inform your P&I club rep. वो पजामे में नंगे पैर दौड़ते हुए आएगा and tell you, Captain, give me a boiler suit and a juta. Because on behalf of the oil tanker owner, he will settle the claim. So he will be the first person most interested in getting all details of the oil pollution incident. Inform him first, and then inform the post authorities, your Coast Guard, your agent, and your DPA. वो सब बाद में, पहले P&I को club को करो. There was a question also, what is the importance of P&I club in settling the claim in case of an oil pollution incident, something of that. Have you followed this?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Again, in the figure. Now, that is the important thing about the CLC. Focus on the oil tanker. Now, this whole scenario is for every incident. Single, if there are 10 incidents, the total amount of money, because we'll just talk about first and second, it's optional. If there are 10 incidents in the world, 10 incidents in the world per year, 1st April to 31st March, the total amount of money available is 203 million multiplied by 10. Now the point is, ये वाली line भी fixed है ये for individual tanker owner. But IOPC fund में जो पैसा है, that is applicable for every incident involving any oil tanker where they get involved, where the money required is more than what the oil tanker owner pays. That is the yellow fellow and the blue fellow. And nobody can, you can make calculation to project, not predict. Prediction to apne jyotish log karte hain, projection. For the next year, 1st April 22 to 31st March 2023, we must have so many $1 billion to be prepared. So they will take the worst case scenario that in a scenario, how much is the maximum that the IOPC fund will have to pay? So look at the figure, focus. This is an interesting question. How much, so my question is, for any oil pollution incident, what is the maximum amount that the IOPC fund headquarters at London has to be prepared for? How many million SDR minus how many million? It is there on the screen. Maximum.
203 minus 89.77.
नहीं बेटा, वो तो मिनिमम, मैक्सिमम तो ये है ना.
$750 million for 20 countries and 203 million for the remaining countries.
बेटा, you are coming in very garbled. You are coming in very garbled, not clear at all. दोबारा बोलिए बेटा.
203 minus 4.51.
Yes, that is the worst case scenario that the IOPC fund has to be prepared for. ये तो best case scenario, ये minimum that they pay. This is the maximum. But logical hai, if you take CLC, smaller the tanker, smaller the cargo, smaller the potential of the claim. So liability of the tanker owner is small. Larger the tanker, larger the oil carried. In case of a spill, larger the potential of total amount required for claim. Okay, you be prepared for that oil tank. But उसके ऊपर वाली line straight है, तो यहाँ पे this is IOPC fund, this thing is minimum, this is maximum. So for every incident, IOPC prepares 203 million SDR minus 4.51 and do the projection इतने $1 billion तो अपने पास होने चाहिए. I'll come to that. I would have finished this thing today, but because of the technical glitch, I could not. No problem. I will be continuing tomorrow on that. The important point is, see beta, when we see this line, this is easy to implement. Why? This is applicable to an individual tanker owner. I am one crude oil tanker owner. I will ensure कि भाई 89.77. You are another oil tanker owner up to 5,000 gross ton. By मेरी maximum liability 4.51 है. You are taking care of your liability if your oil tankers involved in a pollution incident. I am taking care of my liability. You are one individual. I am one individual. Easy to apply. A problem comes is with IOPC fund. This is applicable. This whole second tier is applicable to you, me, X, Y, Z, A, B, C in 365 days. That is where their projection comes. कि भाई हमको हमारे पास कितना पैसा होना चाहिए. That is where the smartness of IOPC fund headquarters in London comes. They have very highly qualified tanker industry people. They have economists, maritime economists, statisticians, the actuaries who are studying the movement of crude oil on a daily basis to ensure using highly computerized formula to try and be as accurate as possible. That कि भाई per incident इतना पैसा होना चाहिए. Worst case scenario, So how many incidents shall we be prepared for and accordingly ask the contribution? The same thing is applicable here, but this is optional. So tomorrow we will complete this. The important thing, another very important question, how the money comes into the fund. We will take the case of India. Very interesting. I will show you. Okay. And it's a very small amount, but all that tomorrow. Then I will make you write the question and answer oral. If a port country is not party to CLC and a visiting oil tanker is involved in an oil pollution incident, what is the implication? If a coastal country is not party to the fund convention and an oil pollution incident happens there, what is the implication? Very common question, guys. We will do it tomorrow and finish it.